Okay, so hopefully we can see this. This is going to be a review of throttles. We have 4 different types. This one is what I would call a cheap ass throttle. Here's our throttle. Cable comes out the bottom. This is the start stop switch. For me, I didn't find it very comfortable to fly, and I don't like any cable that comes out the bottom. The engineer in me says this twists and gives a high fatigue failure issue at this point. The next one I started off with was a Parajet one. These things are bulletproof, brilliant on-off switches. So that would be start, stop. There's the on-off. I quite like the bulletproofness. It's just a bit square. It's a bit hard to wear. It's a bit hard. I found it a bit hard to put my gloves around it sometimes. But again, I don't like this throttle bit coming out the bottom. I don't know if you can see it started to wear. It belongs to Mark, my friend, and he's only used it a few times. You can see there, I'm not sure if they show up, there's some wear marks where it's almost broken at the bottom here, because that is always going to be a shear point wherever you go. But this is the cruise control, and I always like a throttle with a cruise control. So the cruise control works really well on these. You can just do it with your thumb, on and off, start if you've got an e-start, and stop. On these, when you stop, you have to hold the button in. So if you hit it accidentally, it doesn't stop the engine. You have to hold it in for a couple of seconds, then it will stop the engine. And that, I found an issue sometimes. When you're new and you're coming down to land and you're panicking, you just press it and then the engine's still going. So make of it what you will. Next, I went for a Vortex Aero. So I wasted my money again. As far as I'm concerned, I wasted my money. Lovely throttle. I thought it was well made. You can see it's got a light here. This light would tell you can add a fuel gauge to it. It tells you the fuel gauge. The fuel gauge I had, totally wasted of money, totally rubbish. Didn't really work. So I wouldn't say to get their fuel gauge. It's pretty rubbish. But as you can see, one of the buttons fell out. Always a weakness. So and throttles, unfortunately, when you land, lots of people will drop their throttle onto the ground and it'll drag while you're unclipping, and that's always a point of weakness, which is why PJ throttle, Parajet throttle, is really quite good, because it's an aluminium design, so it's quite bomb proof. So basically the anodizing does wear off quite quickly. This design, total pile of crap in my mind, just because these switches are always going to be a massive weak point. I don't like anything that can break off, and I find handles like this a snag hazard. I'll show you why in a minute. Vortex Aero again. Cruise control is done via this knob here. All you do to hold your cruise control in is tighten it. You can see this is very much like the Polini one, so it's just a copy of the Polini throttle. Off is at the top, and I found that very awkward, because quite often my hands are here trying to get to that off button, pain in the butt for when I'm coming in to land. You know, maybe I should be higher when I turn my engine off, but I tend to make sure I can actually get into my field. Lots of us in the UK have tiny little fields to take off and land from, and to get that button while you're up in the air is not an easy thing to do. You can see I'm trying it. Doesn't bode well. So that's one of the reasons I did like the fact that this throttle cable is routed in such a way that this is not an issue here, but it tends to want to bend one way nicely and not the other way. So it tends to kink up, and it can, what I found, is if you're in a certain position, put strain on the throttle cable and rev your engine for you. So kind of didn't like that design. Maybe my throttle cable was too long, that was the issue, could be. But I just didn't like the design. Did like the way this thing has these clips on. So these little clips, so you can quickly clip it in to everything. So e-start, you can clip it straight into your e-start, clip it straight into your coil and all the rest of it. So that's nice and easy. You can take it off, put it on. So if you're changing things, that's a good idea, and I think all the companies should do that. And they should really standardize and all use the same clips, then you can change as you want if you want. These things though, hell of a lot of money. I think I can't remember what the price of the Vortex Aero, you'll have to look it up. PJ ones, you can pick these up, Parajet ones, you can pick these up second hand for 125. I think new they must be 180 or something. So a lot of money for a throttle as far as I'm concerned. It's good design, but has a weakness here. They should have had the throttle cable coming out here as far as I can see. This one, the EXO, is from the makers of the Chameleon throttle. To use it, you put your hand through the loop and you hold it. I like this one because it's very smooth. There's nowhere for any lines to get caught. The stop button, easy to get hold of. Start button, quite easy to get hold of, so that's nice and easy. For cruise control, you pull it in and you have to use your free hand, click up, and you've got cruise control. To let go of your cruise control, pull in, let go. So on, off, pull in, let go. So this is a nice throttle, easy to hold, good design. I haven't actually flown with it yet, and I'm not intending to for a little while, so I might have to do a follow-up video on this one, how this one flies with. Final throttle to review. This is the Chameleon version 3. So you hold it like this, you wrap around the Velcro so it holds on your wrist. I've actually fallen in love with this one. This one is absolutely awesome. To accelerate, just pull your finger down and off you go, let go and it returns nice and easy. To stop the engine, push down here. There's two little micro switches. One micro switch is off the engine, the other micro switch is your e-start, so you can turn on the e-start with it. So generally speaking, you have it in a neutral position to start up. Once you're in the air, your cruise control, you push down here, there's my cruise control set, and I can virtually take that off and I can fiddle whatever I want to do. I'm a fiddler when I'm in the air, always on my phone, making sure the GPS is right and everything else. So that is just perfect for me. Back on with my free hand. To get off the cruise control is a bit of a faff, I must admit. You have to push in here, that flips up and the cruise control is off. So I'll show that again. Cruise control on, push in, this flips up. On, in, flips up. Now that can be a pain to get used to it, because once I pushed in the off button and the cruise control did turn off, but my whole engine turned off. So instead of going on the on, you have to do it with your other hand. So now we'll see how they launch. And I do like the way the cable comes above, so it's routed really neatly, so it's not going to be in your way. There's no fray, there's no trouble of this getting frayed around here. Okay, so reverse launches. It's quite gusty where I am, so reverse launches. Obviously got the aero throttle, my brake handle goes behind the throttle. I walk back till the A's present themselves. Okay, when I launch I pull on both A's. So my problem is when I launch sometimes and turn, this handle, hopefully it shows up, can get caught. So I turn sometimes and it gets caught, which obviously is a major pain in the bum. I'll try and do a launch now. You have to also remember you've got holding on to the throttle at the same time. So there's always a lot going on in your hands. So as we go. Righto, Parajet throttle, reverse launch. So straps around your hand quite nicely. Actually feels quite nice in your hand. It's a bit square, but as I say, the only reason I don't really like it is this bit. And on mine, this come loose, and I do tend to fly with the cruise control. So, reverse launch, brakes again, behind the handle. That's the way to do it on these. Step back, A's present themselves, pick up, and again, I'm like this on the PJ handle. I put my A over the top. This is a bit better because the accelerator, the throttle accelerator, is a bit smaller, so it doesn't tend to get hooked if you launch with two hands, as I do when you do a reverse launch. I know lots of people just use one hand when they reverse launch. They won't have this issue, but I tend to do two, because if I use one, I tend to put the brakes on too much or one or the other, my wing goes over to one side. So I know lots of you saying that's my technique, but tough titties, that's why I do it. So if I hold on, so let's get centered in the wing. Okay, for the EXO, reverse, hand through the loop, and you hold it like this. So this is my throttle. I like this, it's a clean design so not much can get caught. If it does, it's going to flip out. Here's the off, obviously. Here's the E-start. Cruise control, pull the handle, flip up, so it's a two-hand affair. And then to turn off cruise control, it's just a flick. So this, very good design. It seems like for some reason the French, EXO is a French company, same people make Chameleon, are hot on their design, whereas us English people and Americans, awful design. So nice and easy. You can hang it off when you're doing things. Not sure I would, but you can. Also the cable route over your arm, so safer position. Now when you're reversing, pick up my brakes. They go nice and snugly right behind the unit, so I like that. I've got it in my hands. As I come back, A's present. My A's go in front, so that's quite easy to slip off when I do a reverse. So unfortunately the wind has dropped, so it's not reversible, but you can see what happens. Happy days, there's nothing to get caught, good design. Righto, this is the finger throttle, and it's made by a French company. It's called the Chameleon throttle. Now lots of people say you can't wear it with gloves. This is it with the gloves on. You can see I can still operate. Put the throttle on, take the throttle off. This is the stop. This is the stop, so that stops the engine. And the cruise control, you have to do it with the other hand. So I put the engine on, push this down, hopefully you can see it. And now it's cruise control, I'm hands free. I can take it off my wrist if I want, mess about with things. This is my second flight with it. First flight wearing it with gloves. Now I normally don't take off with gloves and I put them on when I'm in flight. So that's what I did today, and this is it with gloves on, and I quite like it, if I'm honest. Quite like it. Using the brakes, put my hands in, hopefully you can see that. Hands in to use the brakes. Still lots of room to use the brakes, and you can't see that, you'll have to take my word for it. Not always sure where this camera points. But I'm quite liking the Chameleon throttle actually. So far I recommend. It's not for everyone, lots of people don't like it, but for me, it seems a piece of cake. And I got my hands free to do anything I want with all my little gadgets that I fly with. So I can operate the mobile phone, I can operate the remote for the camera, and probably, you know, do most things with.